This is the Bluevua RO100ROPOT-UV Reverse Osmosis System Countertop Water Filter. And if you're interested in upgrading your drinking water but want something easy, convenient, and not tied down to major installation, this could be the one worth a closer look. At least, that was exactly my thinking when I got it. Right off the bat, the shape and appearance got my attention. It sits on my countertop, taking up about the same space as a small microwave. It's not the lightest thing, about 23 pounds, but that's not a real problem for most kitchens because you set it up and then leave it there. What I appreciate is the clean, sleek design. The outside is mostly white, with simple lines that look modern without being too flashy. The glass carafe that holds the clean water is what really stands out. That's borosilicate glass, so it feels sturdy when I pick it up, and there's none of that plasticky smell or aftertaste like you sometimes get from regular pitchers. I just feel more comfortable filling my glass, making coffee, or cooking from water that's been stored in actual glass instead of plastic. From my experience, I can say my water situation wasn't exactly great before using this. I live in an area with well water. The water is hard, and there have been times when our well would go down and we'd get a bunch of ugly sediment in the water. Sometimes it even looked cloudy. I've thought about getting one of those under-the-counter reverse osmosis units, but honestly, those systems are expensive, need a plumber to install, and they're kind of a pain to service. So I figured, let's try a countertop RO and see if this is even worth it. Once I got the Bluevua out of the box, the setup was pretty easy. You basically just plug it in, fill up the rear water tank up to the max line, and you're ready to go. No hoses, no messing with the sink plumbing, no need for somebody else to help. The instructions were less complicated than I expected, definitely a relief. Key features really do matter here, especially if you're like me and want water that feels safe, clean, and actually tastes better. The 6 stages of filtration sound technical, but let me try to explain. After the water goes through a carbon filter and a membrane that takes out super tiny particles, we're talking 0.01 microns, tinier than you can see, there's a UV light included. The UV light is there to kill any bacteria or microorganisms left in the water. It also has a remineralization filter, which puts back some healthy minerals that most RO systems remove. That makes the water taste a whole lot more natural and not flat, like some filtered water does. The screen up front gives you a quick look at the filter status and also shows TDS, that's total dissolved solids, so you can see basically whether the unit is keeping the water clean by the numbers. I appreciate that, since I like knowing if the filters are close to being tapped out. Speaking of filters, these are supposed to last between 12 and 24 months, depending on how much water you run through it, and I'm definitely glad I won't have to change them constantly. Now, for my actual experience. I poured some of our usual tap water into the input tank. With hard water, you can always taste a weird mineral aftertaste, and sometimes there's that smell that's just not great. Within about 5 minutes, the Bluevua ran a complete cycle and filled the glass pitcher. When I poured the first glass, I honestly couldn't believe the difference. There was no weird taste, no smells, just crisp, clean water. Even making coffee, I noticed a difference. The coffee tasted cleaner. It was also quieter than I thought it would be. When you press the run button, it hums a little, but it's really pretty subtle, and after a while you forget about it. Something I think is perfect about this product is that it's portable. We once had a plumbing situation in our kitchen and had to shift things around, and because the Bluevua isn't installed into anything, it was no trouble to unplug and move it. I've also used it for filling water for my pets and even my houseplants because I know there's no chlorine or weird chemicals left. Another point I'd recommend this for is the actual effort involved in using it. There's not much. Refilling is a simple process. Just lift the lid, pour in water, and put it back in place. Changing a filter just means twisting out the old one and putting in a new one. There's no guesswork because the screen tells you when you need to do it. The pitcher itself pours well, and I haven't had a drip or spill, which I can't say about some water filter pitchers I've owned. But I have to be honest, there are a few things I don't love. One is the water capacity. You're looking at about a 17-cup pitcher, which goes faster than you think if you have a family or guests over. There were nights I had to run a couple cycles back to back just to have enough for everyone. So if you're a big family or find yourself needing a ton of filtered water at once, you'll probably notice the need for refilling pretty often. Another thing is the size. It takes up a good bit of counter space. I have a fairly average-sized kitchen, and I still had to shift some things to make room for it. If you've got a tiny kitchen, it might feel a little in the way. On the first setup, I had to pay attention when positioning the water tank and making sure the carafe was seated right so there wouldn't be any leaks or errors. It wasn't hard, just something you want to take your time with. In conclusion, I think the Bluevua RO100ROPOT-UV Reverse Osmosis System Countertop Water Filter is a solid solution for anyone wanting top-quality filtered water without fussing with installation, plumbing, or long service calls. The key features: the advanced filtration with UV and remineralization, the glass carafe, the filter life tracking, quiet operation, and energy-efficient standby make it feel like a premium upgrade for my home. It's not perfect if you need tons of water non-stop or have a tiny kitchen. But for everyday use, and for anybody who asks me whether water filters are worth the money, I'd say this one is, especially if you're tired of hauling bottled water or worrying about contaminants in your tap. I will update specific information about the Bluevua RO100ROPOT-UV Reverse Osmosis System Countertop Water Filter in the comments. Don't forget to catch my next video.